a short definition of what is program engagement, since engagement is the word of the year, and there are very many different definitions for engagement floating around. When we talk about program engagement at Nielsen IAG, we are talking about the level of attentiveness that viewers bring to the programs that they watch. So two different programs may have the same audience size, but the viewers who are watching them are engaged with that content to a different relative degree. How do we measure program engagement? We measure program engagement through asking questions and assessing the degree to which those viewers are able to recall elements of the program content that they had seen the night before. So if a panelist is asked a series of questions about the show and they get 80% of them right, they were very engaged. If they're asked a series of questions about what happened in the show and they get 40% of them right, they were far less engaged. Two shows with the same rating and different level of program engagement end up providing a different opportunity for advertisers. The very same ad will perform differently in two different shows. Same genre, same network, same audience rating, but a different level of program engagement will drive a different level of viewer response. With that, I wanted to introduce my two co-workers, Fariba Zamaniyan and David Marans. Fariba works on the client side of our business and heads a business sector and has many dialogues with clients as well as prospects. And David's name will be well recognized by folks in the industry as someone who has got a tremendous amount of experience and expertise in media research. And I think Fariba is going to talk to us about some of the questions that she's heard in the industry.
This is the time of year where our clients and prospective clients are getting ready for the upcoming season, and planning is of essence. And now that we have all of these tools at our disposal, am I, as the media buyer or planner, how do I use engagement relative to the other tools that have been the most pressing or most important? For example, cost and delivery of the audience. And now with the evolvement of more refined ratings data going to more commercial ratings, or the C3 world that we live in today, how are we to use this metric in conjunction with those, or are they replacement tools?
Well, it's certainly not a substitute for anything. I mean, we would never suggest to anybody that they're supposed to use program engagement now instead of, in lieu of, or without considering the full information about the ratings and the audience size and the cost and the audience profile itself. All those factors continue to be important. The way that we are talking about program engagement with clients, as you know, is as an adjustment to the audience rating. And obviously now the gold standard is C3. So we're able to have an estimate of the audience of the folks who are watching during that program's commercial break, the people that are tuned in. We can think of that really as the maximum number of potential exposures, because those are the people who didn't channel surf away. There is more than one way, however, to change your attention and take your attention away from that television set. And even though you're still tuned in, you may choose to move your attentiveness or your engagement elsewhere. What we've proven with our data is that if viewers are highly engaged with the show content, they are far more likely to stay attuned or stuck, if you will, to that set during the commercial break attentively, not just not shifting, but paying attention to what's on screen. So if you're engaged with the program, you're far more likely to end up recalling the ads that air within it. So with that, the way that we talk about using the data is as an adjustment factor to C3. So C3 will give you the maximum number of people who could have had an opportunity to see it, and then you multiply that by our program engagement score. Because if you think of program engagement as essentially a test score that reflects the relative level of attentiveness that people are bringing to that program environment.
One of the questions that surfaced is, this is a metric that looks at performance or viewer engagement levels with programming that's already occurred. Past shows, whether they're canceled or returning, what kind of applications does this have for the upcoming season, specifically with new shows that are being introduced?
Well, during this time of year, and I've had the good fortune of doing this for over 25 years when I was on the agency side, people are seeing clips of the new programs and they're doing estimates, but they're doing estimates of audience size. And that's universally practiced. When new shows are scheduled to come on, they sort of prototype them and look at other programs and they come up with an audience estimate for a show that's going to come on in the fall. That same way of approaching new programs is what we can do as well, or anyone who subscribes to the data can do it.
We know that many agencies do a very good job of estimating ratings for the new shows. And in fact, with your guidance, using several of the same criteria that are used to come up with ratings estimates, both IAG ourselves for internal purposes and as well some of our agency clients and friends have developed estimates. So we know that it can be done. It can be done with a high level of reliability if you have the historical data on which to base the estimating process.
To what level of detail can those estimates be done? So you're looking at programming that's introduced in the fall that will have its first run as well as the potential for repeats. Do you go to that level?
It's the same thing. It's like audience estimates. When and Barbara's done this too in their agency life. When a new show, let's call it Bones, comes on the air, when you do the audience estimates, you'll do a separate estimate
For the original as well as for repeat. And because you've got access to the historical program engagement data, you can assess what is the typical fall off for that genre from an original to a repeat and apply it.
How do I account for that proportion of my inventory that I won't have an engagement score for?
When we talk about prime, we're talking about traditional prime, which is for the networks, usually 8 to 11. But for cable, we're already measuring 6 p.m. to midnight. So we're covering a great deal, a great majority of the programming and and certainly the advertising weight within those 20 cable networks we're measuring right now. Fariba and I joined the company on the same day. And since that day, a little over 3 years ago, we've expanded a great deal of our coverage, adding new cable networks, adding prime access, adding Hispanic measures.
Remember that day when you guys started. Beyond that, and building on the conversation that we had about estimating for new shows that haven't yet aired, it's a very common practice in media to prototype a vehicle that is unmeasured. It is perhaps more common specifically in print, where a great number of these smaller titles just don't even have an audience estimate. So the audience estimates are getting prototyped. So in television, where you've got the ubiquity of the Nielsen ratings, you're going to be able to get ratings information for these programs. We then can prototype the Nielsen IAG program engagement data as a secondary measure.
So in effect, Fariba, we really, by using the same process, we can cover the overwhelming majority of most clients and prospects' media schedules.
And they can prototype the rest.
That's right.
How then do you figure in to this equation the stickiness of a program if I'm watching it live or via DVR?
Well, we know that the C3 metric does include the people who watched the program with delayed viewing within those 3 days, and our program engagement score also effectively includes those people who watched it on a delayed basis.
That should wrap up the key questions that we're hearing from clients today or potential clients.
But I haven't had enough FaceTime yet.
There you
Smile.
go. Smile for the camera.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you, everybody.